question on chapter 8. So the color of money matters. It's so funny that all of these books that we've been reading have so much of what we consider to be Trumpism now in them. You know, I think that a lot of this stuff that's happening and what these authors know was that a lot of this was it was foreseeable that these things would come about based on the different things that were being perpetuated by the Republicans and Trump. So when she was talking about in 2015 that 43% of Republicans believe that the president was Muslim, that Barack Obama was Muslim, and you know how much time Donald Trump basically spent on his birth certificate and how he used that as the platform to project himself into the presidency. Um, and I don't understand how people couldn't see that that was really the racism that was going to be the beginning of even more white supremacist ideology coming from Trump. But that these people went ahead and decided that they thought that he was best for that office, which we're still trying to figure out. And I think many of them need their heads cracked open and examined, but that's a whole other issue there. But how every single time Black people always become these scapegoats for white America's problems and issues. Um, and at the time, they were talking about how they were blaming the special status of Blacks uh, as an issue that they saw as reverse racism, which we know really doesn't exist. But how much do you think all of that played into the current climate that we have right now?
You are you referring to the connection to Trump in the current climate in terms of how it mirrors it?
Right.
Um, I don't know how much. I don't know how much I feel like. I feel like what we've been reading about has been the fallout since Reconstruction and everything post slavery, and I feel like it's not like just one person or one party that's responsible for where we are economically in terms of the wealth gap as Black Americans. So I feel like there's policies by both parties on both sides that have, that work in collusion to keep us down.
Do you think the start of how this was like the initial start of Trump's disinformation and misinformation campaign that people let slide really was the catalyst for what's happening right now?
I think it ignited the fire. I mean, people with, it's really, I don't know, people, they can look at him, the people that support him, and for them, when everyone talks about racism or racist policies or policies that keep a certain segment of society down, it's easy for them to not believe it, because to them, when you say racism and racist and things like that, they want overt examples. They want lynched. They want to see somebody lynched, and then they'll say, okay, that was, he's racist. Those people are racist. They want to see, they don't believe in a policy can be, you know, and I think a lot of that has to do with education. They don't think a policy can be racist, or, you know, I don't know. It was, I think it ignited it. And I think he personally, people were able to get behind him because it was how they were feeling. And then he wasn't overt with racism, and that's what they want to see in order to say something is racist. So they were able to sweep it under the rug and just say people are just complaining. They don't want to believe that it could be any kind of policy or anything like that, or how things are run. So, and that has to do with education and them not having enough of an education in those areas to know that there's proof and it is true.
Well, I think like what she's saying ties directly into like how you presented it as the message that it's this Muslim man who's coming in. I think that it was delivered in such a way that people supporting the ideology could still have a grounds to say they're not racist. Because
Exactly.
what he kept saying is, show me your birth certificate. You're not from this country, which is in our Constitution, which is American law. You have to be native born to be president. So he had what his rhetoric had legitimate grounds. But even as you presented it to us, Shonda, is because the common meaning, the denotation of that statement is it's someone who is not of Christian faith. Now, whether he is or is not, the fact that that created such an uproar in our country that there is no possible way that someone who doesn't believe the same as me is possible, could make the best decisions for our country, I think is more definitive of the level of racism in this nation, that people were in an uproar about the idea of someone who believed differently than them being in charge. Is I think like the bigger picture for this, like that's what I think bothers me more. Like we know that racists exist, but the fact that, I don't know, I guess it was just kind of covered as I'm standing up for American law as opposed to being truly racist. I don't know, it gets under my skin. It sounds confusing. Hopefully y'all got what I'm saying. Like I'm struggling to put it into words today.
No, I get it. I totally
Yeah,
get it.
I get what you're saying.
Some of it, I think, goes back to the Bush administration and 9/11 and creating an atmosphere where it was okay to be racist against a group of people and label them all as terrorists. And there was a generalization made where we could all say, oh, well, if I get on a plane with a guy that looks Muslim, then I'm scared. And so I think that Trump took advantage of people accepting a generalization that would not have been seen as overtly racist because it had been okay in our country because we were attacked to say that this group of people are bad. And so I think that he probably just really took advantage of that idea and ran with it, because then it wasn't because he wasn't attacking Barack Obama because he was Black. He wasn't attacking Barack Obama because he just didn't like him. He was attacking Barack Obama because he was like, no. My intention is to protect us because Muslims are extremists, because Muslims are bad. And President Bush really perpetuated that idea that anyone from the Middle East was a threat to our country and our national security. So I think that I agree with people when they say that there was a long-standing line, especially in the conservative culture, that you just call it something else. And that's how it becomes acceptable. And you don't even know, as a conservative person sometimes, not all the time, some people know what they're doing, but as somebody who would have called themselves Republican when they were 18, 19, 20, that is kind of where I was coming from, was that I just swallowed the narrative because it wasn't overt and I didn't understand. And it goes back to that education thing and knowing where it comes down the line. That's it.
DeAndre, Sandra.
I wanted to listen to you all because I know you all had some great things to say about that, and I didn't get that far in the book. But I'll say this: that Trump is very, as much as I don't like him and despise him. In fact, I got to give him credit on his ability to sell certain ideas, especially to people that are unaware and idiotic and just quite frankly ignorant enough not to do their own research, and as a result buy into it. But then some people who agree with it but are too afraid to come out and say it themselves, they get behind it. So Trump knows how to leverage and how to use people and how to manage people, but in ways where he manipulates and devalues them, not in a great way. So I have to give him credit for that, because we know that Trump, over the years, his family was famous for stiffing people that work for them. Now I'll say that, and I only bring it up because that Muslim comment, because I remember when he was trying to advocate for proving that Barack Obama wasn't an American citizen, and also using that as a way to say, I think right before he got elected, how every Muslim should be banned from the country, and setting up those walls and getting those children separated from their parents. So I think that what he did was inevitably it came back to haunt him. That's why he'll no longer be our president. And I'm just interested in how life is going to be for him these next few years.
Well, you know, he's gonna get a lot of money donated to him from stupid people. So he's gonna be living large. Like, I think he already got enough money to pay off his $400 million debt that's gonna come due after he gets out of office. So he won't be having to file bankruptcy for the 8th time or whatever it is. But my issue, I have a real issue, and I'm all over the internet complaining. I write the same thing every time. Whatever happened to separation of church and state? Why are we so tied to the Christian religion? I mean, I'm a Christian, but I don't think that my religion should be the religion. I don't understand. I thought it was, why are we so tied to that? Why is that such a thing?
It violates it's the First Amendment, right? Freedom of speech and freedom of religion. That is the First Amendment, right?
I thought there was supposed to be a separation from that in government.
Yeah.
But people are using it, and it's just disgusting to me. It's disgusting to see Trump use it when we all know he ain't no Christian. Come on now.
Please know how to hold the Bible correctly.
We all know he's not. He's never been. He used that because he saw that it would get him more votes. He was for abortion before, and now he's against it. It's just he'll flip-flop whatever direction. But I don't know. I just have a real problem. And every time I see someone post something about God and Trump, like in favor of Trump, I'm just like, what happened to separation of church and state? Why do all these people think their religion is the only religion that matters, and people should abide by that? I don't get it.
Well, I could say that if history has taught us anything, that the extremists who stole the land and killed the Native Americans used Christianity in a way where they could take advantage of people rather than help them. And the reason why things are the way they are, because you have to understand these same extremists are the ones who inevitably created these new laws and stuff. And although here's the crazy thing, that you notice how in America the main rules breaker, the main rule breakers have been the main rule makers. So that's why that's the way it is.
Sandra, be quiet.
I'm just listening.
I was doing the
I
same
mean,
thing.
yeah, I'm just listening. I agree with a lot of what people have said, though. I think that Trump is a master manipulator. I do think that a lot of people in the Republican Party weren't duped by what he was saying. I think they understood that when he was talking about Barack Obama, that even though he did kind of cover it with the whole the Muslim thing, you know, which I do feel like people found it a little bit more acceptable because of 9/11, you know, that was an easy target. The other part of it, a part of it was that here's this black guy with this weird name, you know, with these Muslim connections from Africa. We really don't know him. We can't trust him. And I think people perfectly understood, most mature people, they perfectly understood where he was coming from and what he was saying. You know, I think even before he wasn't a Republican before, he even said the Republicans were stupid, you know? And so the fact that, like I said, he's just a master manipulator, he's speaking to what he knew would get people's attention, you know, and he did that. I mean, very well. And so you have to give that to him. That's what I think he's best at, is manipulating other people. And I think it's really scary because I think with Trump, you see how, you know, how someone like Hitler rose to power, you know, which is really scary, you know, to speak to the masses in such a way and speak to their fear. That I just think that's really, really scary, what we saw with him and what we're seeing with him.
The other thing that's interesting, I just read an article today that Rupert Murdoch's son came out and said that the majority of the responsibility lies with the media. And when you think about how dangerous those news outlets have been, as far as Fox and what is it, One News Network, yeah, and the other totally crazy right-wing conspiracy theory outlets have been in continuing to perpetuate the lies that, you know, Trump and the other Republicans have spewed. And when you think about the things that Malcolm X would say about the media, and you just see, you know, how dangerous it has been with continuing to perpetuate the craziness and not walking back any of this stuff. And I know that these people are very well educated, and I feel like Sandra feels is that they know what they're doing, but they have their own personal things caught up in it that they want to do or they're trying to do, whether it's status, whether it's for money, or whether it's them wanting to be the person that gets their 15 minutes of fame past the 15 minutes. So I just think that that's just been a really dangerous element. How do you guys feel about that?
So a while, I don't remember which book it was, maybe The New Jim Crow, but one of the things that stood out to me was her recounting of her childhood growing up in poverty as a white woman, and basically knowing that in the back of her mind, at least I'm not Black. And she put that in there as kind of like always making that parallel, like, yes, I may have less than other people who look like me, but basically I'm always still going to be better than this group of the population. And I think that whenever that mentality is threatened, I think that we see what we're seeing. Like, I have a family member who is a big Trumper. And so we go at it whenever they're not silenced on my Facebook. We go back and forth quite often. And then I'll eventually protect my peace and silence for 30 days. But one of the things is that one of like her reoccurring statements is, we're losing our country, like they're taking our country away. Like, and so I pulled up one of my responses to her because I felt like it was relevant to the conversation we're having. Because I said, what does that look like? I'm trying to figure out if your worse is the same as my better. I'm Christian. I pray daily and attend church virtually right now. But I'm so looking forward to a day where my friends who are Muslim, Hindu, or even atheists aren't treated like crap because they don't believe the same as me. I'm even looking forward to the day when all people who work 40 hours a week can afford a roof over their head with food in their mouths. And it's going to be super cool when lower income school districts have the same caliber of teachers and resources as more affluent districts. As a licensed gun owner and carrier, I'm ecstatic about background checks. Though I'm heterosexual, I want to continue celebrating the love and unions of my friends who are not. I know it's crazy, but I really want all Americans to feel as American as white Christian Americans. She didn't have a response. Some of her friends jumped in. She didn't reply to that one at all. But it was like, the fact that there was no response to that really kind of hit home for me. And that was whenever I initiated another one of those 30-day silencings, because basically I said what you didn't want me to say.
Right.
And I think she's not alone.
I'm curious as to what the responses were to that. Even though your relative didn't respond, what did their friends have to say? What can you say negative to that? What can you say about that statement that is negative?
Someone says, I just don't think we'll get there with Sleepy Joe, who lies and doesn't support America, and his sidekick, Ho Ho Harris. Joe and his son should be in jail. If it was us that committed these crimes, you bet your ass we would be in jail. And so basically they start attacking Biden and his son. And
right, but Trump's going to get us there. But Trump will get us there.
In the country. Yeah.
They think Trump's going to get us there, though, to that vision of a world. He's on the right path. He's on the right path.
I think
we just couldn't see it, but he is on the right path.
You know, my guilty pleasure is watching Jordan Klepper from from Trevor Noah's show do the interviews.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
And then I understand
that
these
multiple
responses.
Times. It never gets old. It never gets old.
Then I understand these responses because I'm like, their IQ levels are like 2.
Yeah, it's pretty sad though. It's pretty sad. And then you see we have all those people out there like that. Because the ones that had half a brain, they jumped ship. The ones that voted for him in, the first time, a lot of them did not vote for him this time. But the ones that aren't educated, he lost votes. He didn't have the same amount of votes. And, his supporters in the government, they supported him, not because they believed in him, but because they saw how many votes he had. And they knew that they could piggyback off that if they supported him. So they would get all his supporters. And that's the only reason they did it. It's sad. They didn't even want him to be part of the Republican Party at first. But once they saw the power in that, they accepted him and piggybacked off that. And now a lot of them can't go back. They can't backpedal. So they're stuck still supporting him, even though they may not want to, but not because they're so against him, just because the tide has turned. So it's just a bad, messed up situation for our country in general, because it lets you see how easily people can be deceived and won't do any research on their own to find out what the truth is. And nobody reads anymore. Nobody reads anymore. They don't. People don't read anymore.
Apparently YouTube counts as researching, not, your history books or reading things that were actually,
documented,
proven to be right by scholars, or educated people. No.
That's why it's hard for me to have conversations with people that don't read. I just prefer not to even talk to them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Well, you have a lot of people getting all their information from Facebook too, like you said.
Right.
Little blips of information. They're not really doing real research.
Right.
Facebook is the book that most Americans read.
Right.
Right. Well,
Let's
I had heard something, I don't know, maybe it might have been a year ago about, but the way time's going right now, I have no idea when it was, but about a Black news network that was coming out. What happened to that? Did anyone hear about that?
I didn't.
I didn't either.
No one heard about that? I heard about it.
Did it have a name?
Girl, I can't remember. But I did hear about it. I
think
swear.
I did too. I'm looking now to see if I can find the article.
And people need that. Like, why doesn't even though I don't think BET is Black owned anymore.
The Black news channel set to launch.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But why doesn't BET have like a news hour? Just 1 hour out the day to get away from love and hip hop or whatever it is, and just 1 hour of a news.
I could say so much about
or TV One or
but
well, Miss Francesca, TV One is still Black owned. It's owned by Kathy Hughes and her son that founded Radio One in the early 80s. BET, as you know, was sold in 2001 to Viacom, and so they own it.
Right, but they're still appealing to Black audiences. So why not? Why can't there be a Black news network? It's much needed.
So I just found the article. Yeah, so the Black channel is set to launch in February, and it'll be a 24-hour national outlet that targets Black viewers.
Okay, so this February. I knew I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
But is it going to be an obscure channel that nobody gets? You have to. I'm just saying, you know how they do it. It's going to be like you have to buy the extra special package of cable in order to have access.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not going to be, if it's 24 hours news, I just can't believe that it's going to be simple to access.
24 hours is a lot.
Yep, that's true.
There's enough content for it though. I mean, look at CNN. You just repeat stuff. Just in case somebody missed it. You just repeat.
Right.
So there's enough content out there.
We'll see how
I'd like to see what channel it's on.
Yeah.
I mean, does Oprah still own her own network?
As far as I know.
Or did she sell it?
I think she's in the process of selling it.
Oh, of course.
So it says DNC, the company that's in charge of distributing it, that is projected to get 23 million satellite TV households, 10 million cable TV households, and a projection of 75 million viewers, including smartphone users. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah.
They're actually going to have an app. So they have agreement with Comcast or Xfinity, Dish Network, Charter and Spectrum, Vizio, and Roku.
Okay. All right. I wonder who's backing that.
They just said it's a Black billionaire that invested in it.
Okay.
J.C. Watts. Not really familiar with him.
No, never heard of him. But yeah, I'll have to check it out and see what they're talking about.
Oh, interesting is that Watts served as a Republican congressman.
Oh shit.
What? I didn't hear that. What you say?
So Watts, the co-founder, served as a Republican congressman in Oklahoma from 95 to 2003. So we'll see.
And he's a billionaire now?
Yeah,
wow.
He's separate from the rest of the crazies.
It's possible.
Yep.
God, I'll be sad if that turns into a Black Republican station.
Right.
That is, talking about how the election was stolen.
Yeah,
man,
I didn't want to say it out loud.
Katie, your
if
facial
that happens,
expressions are hilarious.
Where's the headquarters? Where's the headquarters? Because if that happens, I'm gonna have to go protest. You'll see me on the news. I'll be out there with a sign.
Oh my goodness.
I always said I'd end up out on the street
Oh
corner with a
no,
sign
why
one
did you
day
have to
anyway.
skip it? Oh no. Oh, that would be the worst.
Wouldn't it though?
That would, oh God.
I'll make a
can't
trip.
handle that.
I'll make a special
I'll be
trip.
honest with you. I can't handle that. Nope.
So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't, because then I'm gonna end up, like I said, I'm gonna be instead of the QAnon shaman, I'm gonna be the I don't know, I have to make up a name for it. I'll be the shaman of disbelief.
As long as you're not out there with the horn and
I'll have to find some other gimmick.
Like Dale Dribble and King of the Hill.
right.
I'll have to come up with another gimmick. It'll have to be another gimmick, something eye catching. I don't know what. Good morning.
So let me ask you all, what do you think about the comparisons between the Black Lives Matter protests and the storm, the riots at the Capitol, the attempt to overthrow the government?
No, well, it's no comparison at the end of the day, because anybody that's with Black Lives Matter, we would not have gotten anywhere close that far, because they would have already had all hands on deck. They would have been more than prepared. They weren't that prepared for a reason, and Trump has everything to do with that. I personally think he intentionally called them off and held them back for that very reason.
Oh yeah.
Well, and the difference, to answer your question, is white privilege. We know that we know that it exists. If we didn't know that before, we know that now.
The fact that every one of them was not shot for entering the Capitol,
right,
and threatening our leaders, like everyone was there. Every leader that we had, except for Trump, was there. There's just no way that if it had been the opposite, that everyone wouldn't have been shot and killed. We would have, 5 or 6 people died in this event. It would have been hundreds.
Oh yeah.
Maybe thousands.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen comparisons. I saw on Facebook someone posted a picture of Colin Kaepernick kneeling, and then the other side was the protesters trying to break in the Capitol, and the person was in favor of Kaepernick, and then somebody commented on that saying that Kaepernick was a traitor and all this other stuff, and I'm like, seriously? That made me go on a rant. And I try to hardly ever do that, because you can get no satisfaction out of trying to make someone understand something that they're never going to get. It behooves me that wasn't the proper way.
I think we lost you, Frankie.
Veterans. I don't understand that. How his message wasn't about anything to do with veterans.
Right.
It was about police brutality.
But they always change the narrative. They always change the narrative.
Right. To fit whatever it is that they're trying to push. And it's just sad. It's a lot of uneducated people out there, and it's really sad.
Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I was just getting ready to say, I think it's amazing too how people, doing the Black Lives Matter talked about, respecting the police and everything. And then what happened to Blue Lives Matter? That's what I was just saying. Then all of a sudden you have these cops that were beat up, I think it was 60 police personnel that were injured during this and killed, and some people were killed too. So I'm like, well, what happened to all of that respect?
Right. What happened to Black Lives Matter when you were bludgeoning this Capitol police officer with a fire extinguisher?
Yes, it's the hypocrisy for me, though. It's just critical that I just don't get it.
In a way, it's karma and irony for our police. So.
Yeah.
Did you see the interviews with the Capitol Police afterwards?
No.
Did you see that? The guy, when he was like, they pulled him out into the crowd. They were yelling, "Take his gun." And he said he tried to appeal to their humanity, saying,
I saw that.
The kids. And he said, he wanted to say thank you to the ones that ended up encircling him and trying to protect him. Then he was like, but fuck y'all for being there.
Right. Yep. Yep, he sure did.
You have to watch those interviews. You have to. And the one cop that said that any day he wouldn't mind being there to prevent them from what they were trying to do, from trying to overthrow the government. No matter what he had to endure, he would do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, those cops are like, man.
Yeah, they saw that people weren't being real and true with the whole Blue Lives Matter. That was just a way of making excuses for the killing of innocent people.
Yep.
And as soon as they became in their way, then the truth came out.
Oh yeah, because a lot of the officers were saying that the protesters like, you guys, we thought you'd be on our side. You're supposed to be on our side. Like what?
No, they're supposed to be upholding the law. Period.
Some of them definitely were sympathetic to the cause.
Oh yeah.
We did see that because they actually allowed them
to get passed. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Ushering them in. Yeah, that's fine. And be that way. It's not like they changed, but things, I believe in karma. I definitely believe in karma. I've seen it happen myself firsthand. I believe in it. So, there's nothing really you can do. You can't, they don't want the education. They don't want to see the truth. Can't make them see the truth. So what can you do?
I just had to bring that up because that's two of the protests she touched on were Ferguson and Baltimore. So
there are very fine people on both sides.
We love you. Thank you. Thank you so much for supporting us. We love you for trying to burn down the Capitol. We love you for trying to take representatives and senators as hostages and possibly executing them. We thank you. That came from our president. We love you.
Those zip ties were just to hold things down. That's all. They just wanted to make sure that nobody stole anything. That's what those zip ties were for,
Right. And the spreading of their feces throughout the building just for decoration.
Oh my God.
Interior decorating.
It was a mural.
Decorating.
Yeah.
There's
feces.
It's just a mural, that's all.
Oh, but yeah. I'm just wondering.
The American flag and replacing it with the Trump flag isn't a Nazi thing at all. No, that's not at all anything like, no. Oh, and the rest of the world sees it as a coup and as white supremacy, except for you guys. Who's right?
I don't know.
And millions and millions and millions and millions of people see this for what it is.
I don't know.
And you're telling me that a few 100,000 got it right?
Right.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know if we'll ever be able to recover from that in the global community.
Well, I can tell you that the Republican Party will never recover from this.
I got one question. The whole the feces thing. Was there evidence of that going on in the Black Lives Matter protests?
No.
Spreading feces?
No.
I'm just wondering because I'm like, is this like a cultural thing? Is this a cultural thing? This spreading of feces? Because the only people that I know not people, but the only creatures that I know with the spreading of the feces were like, don't chimpanzees do that?
Right.
No, don't they for real? Like when they're mad at you, they'll throw feces at you and stuff.
They throw it at you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Well, if you ever listen to Dick Gregory's conversations, you would.
I've watched a lot
Why
of
they
his
do that?
clips.
Because
I've
why?
watched a lot of his clips.
what
I'm just
he has to say
wondering.
about the comparison.
Right. I mean,
Uh-huh.
people, racists been trying to spread the wrong narrative. It seems, I don't know. It seems like there's certain cultural ties to the chimpanzees and the feces. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know about the feces till right now. Hadn't heard about that.
Oh,
That's
Frankie,
okay.
you are giving me so much life today. I swear.
No, but really, I swear to God, I'm not even joking. I did not know that they were spreading feces at the Capitol.
Yeah, you.
And
have
I'm
to
like,
read the article. Look at
Yeah.
did they go to the
It happened.
Yeah,
Whose was
Reddit
it?
or were they
Was it-
taking a
Yes.
shit right there?
yeah, they urinated in front of was
Or
it?
was
did
it pre-planned? Did they have it in a little
Take a dump, or
Ziploc?
did they bring it with them in like a baggie?
Right, in a Ziploc. Yeah.
No,
I
they
don't
they
know.
said
That's so
they
gross.
actually took a dump in the bathroom and
and then went, okay. I thought maybe they
used
just
that
squatted
to-
right there.
to spread it all around. But they did stop
Okay.
and urinate in front of a couple of the
offices.
senators.
Okay.
See, that's just
Okay.
nasty.
Disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. They need to.
So on the globe. So how much has that event damaged further damaged America's reputation on a global level?
Probably
Further
beyond
damage,
at this
because
point.
Mm.
When I
we don't
had
have a very good one.
in Russia asking me if I'm okay,
Wow.
that means
Right.
something. Like I got text messages that day, or Facebook messages that day from friends in Belize and Russia and China,
Mhm.
Dhaka, that were like, "Are y'all okay?"
Mhm.
I mean, so just the fact that from, other countries like that where there's been unrest before, and there's a lot of poverty and a lot of issues, for them to say, hey, this looks a lot like that time in my country when there was actually a coup and a dictator took over. Are you guys going to be okay?
Exactly. It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, we have a horrible image in the rest of the world. But people that don't travel don't know that.
Okay. Because I was you and I agree with you. I was just about to ask if America has such a horrible image globally, why are so many people out swimming sharks to come here?
Because they're watching TV.
But that's not from everywhere. Right. That's not from everywhere though. That's from select countries. You don't see everyone trying to get to.
Right, but they're not seeing the real truth though of America. They're seeing what's on TV.
Right.
There's an image that we're all rich.
It's different. So.
We're all rich. Everything's new. Everybody got a brand new car. Everybody got a nice house. They're not seeing the truth. They're not seeing the truth.
You don't
downtown LA is disgusting.
You don't see that
downtown
happening with
LA?
people from Switzerland or Denmark or other places where the life expectancy is 20 times higher, or the fact they take care of their citizens and there's universal health care there. So yeah, that's not everyone. That's different.
Right now, we are the ugly stepchild of first world countries.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of calls from my relatives in Sicily talking about what the hell is going on over there. I don't know. I don't know. The same shit I was ranting about last time I was there. That's the same shit that's going on.
But worse.
People are
right.
And leave it at that.
No, I'm always trying to let them know that what you're watching on TV is not the truth. You guys don't realize how good you have it.
Well, I think outside of television, America too, in certain circles, still has a certain image of kind of, power, and probably they're not thinking about the kind of things that we're thinking about. People who want to immigrate to America, in terms of the real state of the country. And I think that, even with some of the people trying to come here to teach, the American passport, the U.S. passport, still has a certain kind of power to it. So I think that
I guess.
Like, if it's someone like I meet from, let's say, a woman from the Philippines in a small town and she's married to an American man, she wants to come to America.
Oh yeah,
She
definitely.
doesn't see
Definitely.
America as someplace that's
Mhm.
gonna
The
be
American
difficult
dream.
for her, and it probably wouldn't be as difficult, depending on how she slides in.
Maybe it
I think
just
America
depends on the type of life that you want, because in
Right.
other countries, they may be poor, but they're poor surviving with a one person in the household working while the mother can stay home and watch her kids instead of having to pay damn near her salary in childcare.
Right.
You know what I mean? I always try to tell my cousins, you're tripping because you don't have to work to survive. You still have food on the table.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't have to send your kids. They don't have you don't see daycares. They don't have daycares.
Mhm.
Nowadays, women might work until they have a baby, but once they have a baby, they're stay-at-home moms. They're not sending their kid off for somebody else to watch. So it depends on what you're willing to trade off
Mhm.
when you come here from another country. And I mean, they just have an easier, more relaxed lifestyle. I mean, my brother-in-law right now is in the hospital for the 17th day with COVID. And, I don't know what my sister's hospital bills are going to look like. I heard that, there's some kind of program where if you're in the hospital for COVID, you don't have to pay. But at what point does that stop and you're no longer in the hospital for COVID? You're in the hospital for these other things that happen because of COVID. And the hospital bills, that could put them in bankruptcy.
Right.
So I don't know.
You think? So, Miss Francesca, by bringing it up, you think that the vaccines may do more harm than help?
I'm not getting it. I had COVID. I had COVID back in June and July. I'm not getting a vaccine. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist though. I'm not QAnon, but I have my own, just from reading, my own things that I believe to be true. And vaccine, no, I don't do it. I don't do vaccines, period. I just don't, because there's too much other stuff in it. And they know it's in there. I'm good. I'll take my chances. I'll look for the natural cures. I mean, other people can do it. That's fine for them. But I don't trust it because I don't trust our government, regardless of who is in charge.
Right. I was telling Nandi that I would take it. I would definitely take it in Saudi.
In another country, maybe I would. Maybe I'd consider it. Maybe. I don't know though, but maybe. But I know one person that I know that took it, because it's the two, you have to take the first one and then the second one. And after the first one, they were down, they were sick, they were body aches, felt horrible for 3 days. But then after the second dose, they started questioning if they made the right decision because of how horrible they felt for like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I think that's been reported.
So that's scary.
Side effects.
Another person had seizures after the first dose.
Right.
Wow.
And this is people I know. And so then they never got the second dose because they were allergic to something that was in the first dose. So, it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. I don't know what the right answer is. Because I bet, just for me personally, I will be taking all the immune boosting things, elderberry, what is it? What's the other thing? There's another thing I've been taking too. Elderberry is really immune boosting, and vitamin D. Vitamin D for sure. No, it's hold on, I'm about to go look at it right now. And I feel like taking all these things helped me to have a milder version of it. That's what I believe. Oregano oil. Oregano oil comes in pills, vitamin and extra strength vitamin D, and elderberry. Those, anything, you can look it up. There's books that have natural cures in there for everything. And if you take things that are immune boosting, I believe it helps. Yeah, turmeric. Yeah, that's a good one. I believe it helps. So I'd rather look for a natural cure, because when you think about it, all these things, all these medicines that they invent, they're inventing something that resembles the natural cure. They know that the cures are, they're making things to mimic the effects of whatever plant or root or berry that they know is the cure. So they're making this medicine to resemble that or to mimic that. Why not just take the real thing?
Yeah.
Without
Right.
all the extra bullshit that's in there that can kill you.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's a personal decision, but I just don't trust it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
change
Shonda, why would you trust it more in Saudi than here, though?
because Saudi takes care of their citizens.
I just feel like some other countries might not have the same kind of freedoms or whatever that we have, but I believe that they're upfront and honest about their shit.
Exactly.
You know what I
Like,
mean?
even
This
with
is how it
people
is. Take it or leave it.
even with people catching COVID in Saudi, they cover your medical bills.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see what happens with my brother-in-law and these bills, because like I said, he's been in there, been in ICU. It's been 17 days and he's got a tube in his chest. We don't know what's going to happen or when he's, and then they said even after he gets out, he's going to have to go to some kind of rehab facility, respiratory rehab.
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be a long haul.
Mhm.
And
We'll see what happens with the bills.
Saudi actually opened their own manufacturing plant for the vaccine, so they're not receiving it from outside sources. And I just trust them a whole lot more.
I'll probably get it at the end of the summer.
Another thing that scares me. Go ahead.
I said I'll probably get it at the end of the summer after it's had some time.
Right.
But my main reason for it is because I help take care of my sister's child who's had cancer since he was born.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So I have a different reason altogether. So if I have a seizure because I got a vaccination, then so be it if it protects him.
Right.
Like
I could see that.
So in that situation, if you're a caregiver for someone and you know, I know that I would rather be dead than know that I killed my nephew.
Oh yeah.
So there is some of that. It kind of depends, And so when I start back teaching full time in August this coming year, I will probably get the vaccine before, especially if the side effects are a little bit more defined, and the risk factors are a little bit more defined. Like, what are we having allergic reactions to? As when it gets a little more defined, I'll feel more comfortable with it. But I'm not first in line, but I'm definitely not completely against it.
Katie, I'm with you. My job, because we do mental health, we qualified for first round. And that's literally what I told my boss. I said, give me 6 months and I'll be ready.
Yeah, just give me a little while. Let them have what the risk factors are more defined, Because no vaccine, this is the reason that there are vaccine sheets that tell you what the risks are. And you have to sign a piece of paper when your kid gets vaccinated that says if they die from this vaccination, you understand that that was a possibility. Is because vaccinations can and will kill people and do kill people, but at what rate? And at what risk? And that's the part that makes me uncomfortable with this vaccine, is there hasn't been enough testing and there hasn't been enough time to mitigate risk factors.
Okay, switching gears for a little bit.
Sorry, Yoshunda.
Right, we're going off the deep end. So she touches on getting the focus on the wealth gap, right? And she talks about how the 2008 financial crisis actually wiped out 50% of the total Black wealth. And she was making those comparisons, talking about how Black families had an average net wealth of $11,000 compared to a white family's average of $141,900. And that the Pew data revealed that white families have 13 times more wealth than black families. And that the wealth gap exists at every income and educational level.
Mm-hmm.
And that white families with college degrees have over $300,000 more wealth than black families with college degrees, and that a third of black families have no assets at all.
Mm-hmm.
And she also said that the gap is accelerating and that the wealth of white families has grown at 3 times the rate for average black families. And in talking about things like the social injustices, she said that the growing divide perpetuates injustices hard to capture behind that, with news of riots and protests. And she goes into talking about how the cumulative effects of discrimination, segregation, and the economic detour for Black businesses have created self-perpetuating forces that continue to make Black wealth accumulation difficult, and that the perpetuation of poverty is stunning, that 75% of Black children who grow up in families in the bottom wealth category remain in that same category as adults. I think that the thing that really was concerning was looking at how it affects people psychologically. She was talking about how eviction, homelessness, and extended poverty are psychological trauma for children, and that children who grow up in those types of environments are exposed to stress that hinders their social and academic capacity, and it even affects their decision-making processes. And the same with adults, that it creates within them a distinct mental state, that a state of scarcity is such a heavy mental burden that it lowers their cognitive ability and short-sighted decision-making. So Jasmine, I know that, you have a lot of experience in that arena, and I wanted to ask you guys, what did you think about that? Maybe from your own personal experiences, how this has potentially affected you, or if it hasn't affected you.
As you were talking about this, like, I'm actually pulling something up now that I wanted to share, because I actually put it in the margins of the book while I was reading, which it's called the ACEs quiz, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's used by psychologists, therapists around the world to determine the risk for kids, like basically putting them at risk populations. And I want to read the questions. Actually, Shonda, if you want to give me share screen, I will share it and I'll just kind of flip through it and let everybody read it. We don't have to discuss question by question, but I want you to see, because it's a 10-question assessment, and I want you to think about how many of these things are innate to a minority student growing up in poverty. That it's like these are traumas that literally shift the way that our brains function and process things. But we take it for granted as it's just a part of life.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually went through the ACEs training for our Spalding Youth Advisory Council. So yeah, it's definitely an awesome tool, and I'm making you host now so you can share it.
Okay. Because yeah, I was pulling it up whenever you started talking about it. All right, so here's the thing. So before your 18th birthday, did a parent or other adult in the household often or very often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, or act in a way that made you afraid you might be physically hurt? we all see this because it is innate. Like, I think that we're seeing a shift as our generation is having kids, but most of us grew up with it being a norm that kids got cussed at. Were you pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at you? We all laugh about our childhoods of, you know, something coming across the room, having to go pick out a switch. But we've talked in, other sessions about the dangers of physical punishment on children. Attempt or actual have sexual assault, and sexual intercourse with you. Unfortunately, we've talked about the commonality of this as well. Your family didn't look out for each other, feel close to each other, or support each other. Basically, whenever we are dealing with social structures in which we are arguing and talking negatively about each other, it makes it hard for a kid to question whether or not everyone behind their back loves them. Were you ever in poverty? Like, did you have to eat, wear dirty clothes, or had no one to protect you? Which is guaranteed if you're low income. Biological parent ever lost you through divorce, abandonment, or other reason? And I'm not 100% sure that this one is separated for the incarceration. But basically had a separation of a parent. This one is, so basically being raised in a single parent household. This one going with witnessing violence. Being around drinking alcohol or street drugs. Mental illness, which we know goes highly underdiagnosed in the Black community. We just wrap it off as, uncle whatever, he just a little off, but we just take it for what it is. And then the part about a household member going to prison. These are the 10 questions, and they seem very simplistic, but these are literally what they've used for umpteen years to determine the likelihood of children to end up in prison or end up dead or end up committing crimes or end up in the poverty cycle. It is literally these 10 factors that shift their way of thinking. So, I wanted you guys to look at it, to think about how many of these things are inherent to the culture of growing up as a minority in poverty, that we don't think of them as trauma as much as we joke about it as in like, man, this happened whenever I was a kid, but we have to break those cycles. Don't everybody speak out at once.
No, so yeah, I was about to say, with saying what Mehrsa was pointing out with the pressure of scarcity, was showing that parents eat poorly, they parent poorly, they also make bad decisions as well. And you have to think about how much of that came from the frustration of not being able to make ends meet. So then you start taking out that frustration on the people that are closest to you, being your kids, or maybe even your spouse.
Yeah, and that marshmallow study, I had never seen that. I'm going to look into it more in depth, because I think that it explains the ideology that we've discussed multiple times too here, whereas in the Black community, we struggle to save and to invest because we are caught up on that instant gratification, where we will go out and buy new shoes or a new car or the new right now, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And so I thought it was interesting to see that study in which children, they were making a rational decision. They weren't being impulsive and taking that marshmallow. Everything in their life has taught them that, yeah, they told me if I hold off, I can have another marshmallow tomorrow, but tomorrow I may not get to come back. So let me go ahead and enjoy it today.
Right.
Right. I thought it was also important because it speaks to how we, judge people, that are in poverty or make certain decisions that seem irrational to people that have more resources. So I felt like if this was something that most people understood, we would look at people with a little bit more forgiveness and kindness. Because oftentimes we go, well, why did they do that? Why did they go buy those new pair of shoes? Because that was what they had right then. And they know, like you said, times are hard, the cycle just repeats itself. They don't get the resources very often. So let me enjoy myself right now while I can. But sitting back, that narrative gets played is they're greedy. They want something for nothing. They buy the big TV and don't go buy, don't pay the rent up, for several months or something like that. But I think that goes a long way towards helping, understand each other, and why equity is so important.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you later on regarding that study. I just thought it was very interesting because I could just tell you that even for my own life, I would say I would probably say yes for almost half of those questions because a lot of the questions that were being asked, I did witness and still see. But what it just goes to show you is that I'm looking at this, what Yoshunda read in the book, those questions and how it all ties into why we have the over hyping consumption patterns that we have. And a lot of times, if you've grown up in poverty, if you didn't have much and you get in a position where you're able to go back and get the stuff you feel like you needed or didn't or wanted growing up, you feel like, well, I can go and get it now. Because in my early 20s, that's what I did. But I'll tell you this, but I quickly and a lot of people never learn this lesson. The more you consume, the more emptier I became because I had closets full of Jordans, I had name brand stuff, but I just realized, you know what? Because when I started being an entrepreneur, when I started selling stuff, I started seeing the difference. Like, nah, this this is crazy. I had to, and this is what a lot of people are gonna have to do. They're gonna have to unlearn what they've been taught. Because here's the beauty, here's the positive part about growing up in poverty. If you read a lot of success stories, you and especially people that come from our community, a lot of them started out in poverty. So many people, and we're talking about Black wealth, so many of the wealthy Blacks, and I'm not talking about the athletes or the entertainers, I'm talking about the people that we don't hear about, that we might walk past in the street and not know who they are. A lot of these people at one point in their lives could be categorized as poor. There's a guy in the Bay Area named Victor McFarland who grew up in poverty, but now owns so many commercial real estate in the Bay Area, in New York, and in other areas. It's him and so many other people. And we talked about TV One earlier. We all know Kathy Hughes' story, what she had to go through to build that, and so many other people. So there is a positive aspect about that, but I think a lot of times, for the most part, people are so subconsciously entrenched that they just don't see their way out, and that gets to them. It bothers them, and a lot of times they just submit to their circumstance, or instead of thinking the way out, they choose to do something that's only going to make their situation worse.
Listening to you, like, so y'all, I accidentally discovered this show, and it is on topic, kind of, on Discovery Channel, called Undercover Billionaire. Now, it irks my soul to watch people, I guess, glorify giving up their riches for the show, because it's like in the back of your mind, you always know who they are and that they're really not at risk. But the fact that they bring up so many relevant topics is why I kind of keep watching it and do enjoy it. So basically, these billionaires, they give up their name, they give up their connections, they go to a town they've never been to, they're given $100, an old truck, and a cell phone, and told basically, you got to make it. And so they go out and they kind of, they sleep in their vehicles and they have to borrow and they have to depend on other people and they have to network. And that's what I'm seeing consistently through all of the people participating in the show, is that they have to put their pride to the side and ask for help. And so I'm kind of watching it, and I think it's kind of shifting my mentality. Well, not so much shifting minds. I feel like I kind of have that mentality, but I'm kind of ruminating on how do we perpetuate this message so that we can have more of a communal support system. Because, I mean, these people are making it. They have 90 days to basically try to create $1 million business. And the things that they point out, though, is that, okay, so today's goal is I need to earn X amount of money because that's going to be my shelter and food for the rest of the week. And if I can get that taken care of, then I know I'll have 6 days that I can dedicate to getting this done because I won't have to worry about those things. And I think it just kind of points to everything we're talking to. If you're constantly worried about a roof over your head or food in your mouth, it is hard to spend the brain power and the energy focusing on getting out of the situation whenever my time and energy is devoted to surviving the situation. So I just think it's been an interesting approach. And if any of y'all have any downtime or can't sleep late at night like me, I suggest it. It's on demand. So yeah, but I said it's just cool how they point out, I guess, survival comes first before you can be successful, is the message I was trying to get.
Right. Anyone else? So and it's funny, when you were bringing up the stuff about the marshmallow experiment, and because after that she talks about how the poor are much more careful with their money than the wealthy. And she gave the example of how middle class customers were asked about the price of certain purchases when they were leaving the grocery store, and that they couldn't recall the amount they had just spent or how much they had spent on items. Whereas the people who were considered poor got it overwhelmingly right. And she felt like that undercut the premise that the poor need financial education so they can pay attention to where they're spending their money. And she goes on to say that scarcity is not caused by having low income, it's financial volatility and insecurity that create bandwidth overload. In other words, it is the lack of wealth. And that how wealth is a crucial pillar of stability against any type of devastation that most Black families don't have. And that even a small buffer of savings can shield a person from the psychological tolls that we talked about in having a scarcity mindset. And I think that kind of touches on some of the stuff that you were talking about earlier, DeAndre, when you talk about um, how certain people were raised poor, and what we think about is, those generational curses, but how some are able to break free from that and some are not because they're so deeply entrenched in
Yeah.
that particular mindset.
Yeah, and you brought up the point about how the poor is more careful with their money. See, here's I was asked a question. I was sitting at a Bible study one time, and the pastor asked, "What are some good things about being poor?" And people went over above and beyond answering it from a spiritual perspective. But I, but to tell you the truth, the best thing about not having anything is that it can't get any worse than this, and it shows you how to manage and make the best out of what you have. And if you can manage little, what can you? If you can manage nothing, what can you do when you get everything? But it's still a matter of going inside yourself and just being able to see past that. Because like I said, so many people's instincts are trapped within within that surviving environment, that's all they're thinking about is surviving. But I wanted to say that about how I wanted to say, I wanted to elaborate on what you said about how the poor kind of looks at their money, or yeah, that they seem to take better care, or they seem to examine their money more than the wealthy. They do that only because they don't have a whole lot to they don't have a lot of room for error. They have to budget because we have to do the best we can with what we have. So we have to budget. We have to track and monitor our spending. We have to print off our bank statements. We have to look at where our money is going so that we can know where we can cut back from and where we can add more on. And truthfully, a lot of wealthy people who transition from poverty to wealth, they still keep those same they still utilize the same strategies to stay wealthy and to grow their wealth. A lot of people that look poor are extremely wealthy, and a lot of people that look wealthy are extremely poor.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that was her point too, though, by bringing that up, is that oftentimes the stereotype is flipped. You know, you think that poor people, they don't manage the resources well. They don't, watch their money, and that's why they're poor. So again, it's that stigmatizing people in poverty, and again, blaming it, placing the blame right on their shoulders and making it their entire responsibility to get out of it. And I think that was her point in bringing that up, is that we have all these negative stereotypes about, people not having resources and being poor and making poor decisions and being impulsive. But yet we don't look at the systemic ways that this country is responsible for, and how can then, the country fix it. But we just lay blame right on that one population, on the population of people, and say, oh, it's your responsibility. It can be done. We use these extremes where people were able to overcome, but we still don't ever address the true root of the problem.
Right. I think that when we talk about all these things and how white America ignores institutionalized racism and segregation that help reinforce the cycle of poverty, and we still see that they're trying to address these complex issues with continually throwing Black banks into the mix, along with the article that I posted a couple of days ago, and how we were talking about reading this shows that they're setting themselves up to fail already, essentially, because they're going by the same things, that the same blueprint that these previous Black banks went by. And she was saying that, relying on those banks to do the work of achieving wealth equality is not going to do anything without changing the economic environment in which they operate. And that the institutional structure of American government resists any wealth transfer. Basically, that the only way to address any of this is providing some type of form of reparation. And how many discussions have we seen about reparations? And as she said, it's always met with powerful political resistance. She even posted a poll that found that 81% of white Americans oppose reparations, and that 58% of Blacks supported the idea. And you think about why only 58% of Blacks supported the idea.
Lack of awareness.
I was gonna say, I think lack of awareness, and also kind of that state of it's not even possible. So why waste my time and energy putting in hope that it is going to come to fruition? So it's just kind of that mentality on, yeah, it's not gonna happen anyway. So this is a pointless fight. Let's go ahead and dedicate my energy elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that the reason why I think the reason why there is a lack of awareness is because, once again, most of us are in survival mode. We ain't thinking about that. We just trying to get by. We just trying to pay bills. We just trying to make sure we don't get kicked out of the house. Make sure that the people we're renting from, because I heard one of my relatives on the phone talking with a renter about a wall, a bathroom wall that was torn apart, and some more stuff I'm not going to go into details about, but she was just going back and forth arguing with him over the phone about how the living conditions were indecent. Now things have been fixed since then, but the conversation that I was just listening to, and you know how you be in you I'm down the hall and she's in the living room and I'm just hearing this. And I was just thinking, oh man, I just if I didn't have no words. I didn't know what to say. And some of this stuff in this book, although I'm trying to think of the best solutions, some of the stuff I'm just speechless on. What haven't we tried yet? What do we need to try that we haven't tried in order to get past what we're going through, in order to get past this bridge that we just can't seem to cross over and get across?
Security. Because, and they talk about it, like realistically, to make money, you have to be willing to risk spending money. Yeah. And if I have a little bit of a cushion, but I have lived my life in poverty, there's no way in hell I'm giving my money to make this investment that may or may not work. If it works, I'm good. But if it doesn't work, I'm putting everything that I have at risk and I'm starting back at ground zero. And because we don't have generational wealth, we don't have a safety net. Like whenever you talk about, cycles of poverty and generational wealth, like that's literally what it is. It's that safety net. It's that ability to take that risk to make it big without the risk of losing everything. Because if mommy or daddy or grandma and granddaddy has the potential to bail you out, yeah, I want to do this on my own. But at the end of the day, I know that if I put my entire savings account into this, daddy's going to make sure my rent is paid. He's not going to let me be homeless. Whereas many of us don't have that ability or to have somebody to fall back on. Like we have people who let us move in or will let us, take care of us. And because I feel like as a community, we do what we can to help support. But you're not going to get that without a lot of back talk and about you need to go get a job and you need to do this and you sleeping on my couch. And it's just, there's a mentality that is lacking in our community, but I don't think that we can mend that until we are able to provide that safety net.
Yeah. You made me think about one of my relatives when you were saying some of this stuff, Jazz.
See? I be listening.
It does, but the thing is, your family, we know that our families want the best for us. It's just that, especially people that want to take on risks and that want to take life by the throat and want to pursue their dreams, it's just that they see the risk and not the reward. They see more of the risk than the reward. And it's like, we're just told to play it safe and don't try. And we have a lot more against us than anyone else anyway, in regards to risking. So a lot of us don't think it's gonna work. I can't tell you how I've had to fall out with an uncle or two regarding some dreams and aspirations I had. And I was angry with him at first and decided not to share anything with him. But what I realized is that he don't see it for himself. And the reason why he don't see it for himself is because once again, he's entrapped in a work environment, working in factories and warehouses, that there's so much of a demand in that industry, and that demand consumes so much of your life and so much of your time. and they're only paying you so much money anyway. And on top of all that, if you have a certain amount of money for child support you have to pay, it's really like you aren't in much of a position to authorize or to make any type of governing decisions. It's kind of like being on a hamster wheel, but also being on a treadmill. On a treadmill, you're in control. You can make as many adjustments as possible. However, on a hamster wheel, the wheel is in control of you.
Anyone else?
I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying, like one of the things that I'm doing, and I got the idea from a mixture between this group talking to my boyfriend and the stuff that we're reading, is I am in the process of trying to start a family investment group. So once we get it up and running, I will share progress with you guys if you're interested in doing something similar with your families, because we are going like the whole legal route, LLC, operators agreement, and all this other fun stuff with me and my cousins. So
Gotcha. I did see that tab when you had all the tabs open, so I saw it.
yep, so that's what we're working on. So I've got two cousins that are actually in the banking and financial industry, and so we've been meeting once a week right now, just kind of coming up with it so we can have everything written up before we present it to the rest of the family. So once we get it, I will pass on that knowledge, because I believe in, helping everybody else out. And our goal is to put a situation kind of in what you're describing. Like, we want to be able to make the leap and take big investments without one person taking on all of the risk. So that is what we are hoping for, and hopefully it works. We trying to shift generations.
That's awesome. That's wonderful.
I commend you
Yeah.
all.
I do too.
All right, y'all. Well, we're up on time. And I will post for everyone to vote on the next book that they want us to read as